If you've been thinking about taking a weekend trip up to Seattle, here's a great reason to go. The Tony-nominated hit Fat Ham is playing the Seattle Rep right now through May 12th. Now, if you haven't heard of it, it's a highly lauded comedic version of Hamlet. It's even won the Pulitzer Prize for drama. Fat Ham follows Juicy, a young queer black man whose father just died. His mother just married his uncle, and then a ghost appears at a family barbecue demanding that Juicy avenge his murder. It's a whole thing. Now, tickets are as low as $20, and you could go grab them at seattlerep.org. And go catch a Mariners game while you're up there. That would be an amazing weekend. Just don't buy a Mariner dog, trust me. Hello, beautiful science nerds. The Association of Science Communicators is hosting Science Week this week in Portland, and there's tons of amazing events going on that you don't want to miss. For example, this Tuesday the 9th, Scott Burns is hosting a wine tasting and terroir talk at Experiment PDX. He'll get into the soil composition and microclimates that make Oregon wine so unique while you drink it. And on Thursday the 11th, Dante's is presenting Chiasm Cabaret, a titillating fusion of burlesque, comedy, and yes, science. And then finally, on Friday the 12th, you can go behind the scenes of the OPB show All Science, No Fiction at OMSI. There won't be burlesque or wine, but Jess Burns and Brandon Swanson, the show's producers, will be there, and they're always down for a good time. You can tell them I said that. For more info on all of these events, head over to associationofsciencecommunicators.org or just check out our show notes. In 2020, Oregon was the first state in the U.S. to pass a law legalizing psilocybin use within a therapeutic framework. And now there are nearly 300 licensed facilitators across the state, and by last year, over 700 people had already gone through psilocybin therapy. But what does that treatment look like? How much does it cost, and is it really worth it? I mean, we can all still do mushrooms at home, right? So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Courtney Campbell, a licensed facilitator and founder of Chariot. Courtney's own personal experiences with psychedelic mushrooms led him to open the center last year, and he's here to answer all of our questions concerning this new type of therapy. It's Thursday, April 11th. I'm Cloudia Mesa, and this is what Portland's talking about. I read that psilocybin therapy was kind of a hard pivot for you. You were a filmmaker, right?
I was, yeah.
What made you want to open your own facility?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was my own experience with psilocybin, my own healing journey, that I've kind of always struggled with anxiety and depression for as long as I can remember, really, as well as some substance use problems. But in 2020 is when I kind of began the process of getting off of an antidepressant that I'd been on for many years, and went to a retreat in Jamaica, where they do kind of high dose psilocybin sessions with a group. And kind of after that experience, I mean, it was very transformative for me and kind of launched me on this current path of working with psilocybin as a tool to alleviate many sorts of mental health sort of issues. And living in Oregon, being an Oregonian, when I heard about Measure 109, I was very excited. And for folks that I knew would come here, and yes, was curious and interested in what role I could play in the emerging kind of psilocybin therapy world.
So you spoke about your own anxiety and depression, those being some symptoms that the psilocybin therapy have helped you overcome. Is that a safe or like a truthful statement, like it's helped you overcome them? Or is that like in tandem with other things? Like, let's say I have anxiety. I'm like, let's pretend like I definitely in a world where I might also have depression and anxiety. Would I just go through one session and then I'm like cured, or like I don't understand how that would work?
I can speak to sort of my own personal experience and anecdotally also what I've seen over the last year. But for me, it's not a silver bullet, right? Nothing is. It'd be wonderful if we could heal ourselves of all these problems with just one session, one day. The reality is that it's, it takes a lot of different work, and work that, whether that's being in therapy, meditating, all sorts of, sort of supportive components that help, I think, assist the process. But I think what psilocybin really can allow you to do is let go of the stories, the thought patterns, whatever sort of trauma, I guess, is the root of these symptoms that are manifesting. It can allow you to move beyond and accept that whatever happened in a way that's very healthy. And psilocybin allows us to let go of those things that are no longer serving us.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically therapy. Like that's what therapy is supposed to
Yeah.
do, is you talk through all of your bad habits, right?
Right. And I can say that as someone who has been in years of therapy, I understood what the therapist was telling me and why, this or that may have been the cause of my depression or anxiety. And yet it was still hard for me to move forward from it in a way that, that felt like I was getting any sort of real relief.
Right. Well, aside from anxiety and depression, like what kinds of people do you think would benefit most from psilocybin treatment?
So research and our kind of experience is showing that the most significant benefit is for those like me who've struggled with anxiety, depression, substance use, but also folks with OCD, people who are dealing with a terminal diagnosis or have a family member or loved one or friend who has passed and are in a sort of a stuck grief process, unable to move on. PTSD, there's a lot of research showing that it's very helpful for folks, combat vets in particular. And really, any sort of trauma, you're likely to experience benefit from working with psilocybin.
These are all therapies that are guided in a way, right? Like, can you walk me through what it would be like to go through a psilocybin therapy? I'm sure a lot of people are listening. They're just like, I can take shrooms at home. And I'm sure a lot of people have, and they still feel all the things that they've felt before, right? So like, what's so different about, taking mushrooms at home and taking them, let's say, at your office?
Yeah. So, I think that I tried to do this at home without a facilitator. Like I think like a lot of people have. And I think probably like a lot of listeners, the benefits maybe didn't come. And so there's something about working with a licensed facilitator that allows you to surrender, go deep into the psilocybin experience in a way that is challenging without that person around. For people that have never worked with psychedelics, it's extremely important because this is a brand new experience that can feel often, very foreign and it's a new space to explore.
Can you walk me through what it would be like to go through a psilocybin therapy with you?
Yeah. So the initial sort of contact with us is you would schedule a free consult with a member of our team who would explain the process to you like I'm doing right now and get to know you and why you're interested in receiving psilocybin services. We would then send you a brief sort of intake form that you'd fill out, and we would use that plus the conversation we just had to connect you with a facilitator. Mm-hmm. Most facilitators kind of have a specialty area that they work on, but we would schedule a meeting where you guys would get to know each other and see if you're a good fit, because that relationship is really important to the outcome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you guys decided you were a good fit, you'd have your prep session with a facilitator where it's like a big therapy session where you kind of tell them your life story. They, explain to you sort of what to expect, how to prepare. And then on the day of the session, you would show up at Chariot. Your dosage would already be determined kind of between you and your facilitator. And you'd come in, make a tea, drink the tea, and then lay in one of our rooms, get comfortable. And we have speakers in each room. We have headphones if you'd rather do that. But you would basically just have the room to have your journey and with your facilitator. Are
they talking you through it or are they just watching you?
Neither. I mean, they're there to do both if you want them to. It's a non-directive model. So you're not actually, the goal is to not engage in talk therapy during the session. The goal is for you to go inward and have your own experience. And
Are they in the same room with you then?
They're in the same room with you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. They have this really amazing skill to be there when you need them to be and also not be there when you don't. So it's not like someone just creepily sitting next to you, watching you while you're having this experience. Yet if you are having a hard time, they're there to support you.
And how long is that session?
6 hours. There's minimum duration times that are the required lengths of stay, basically. So at the highest dose, you're required to be there for 6 hours. Some people need longer, which is fine. And we're happy to stay there. And it's a very sort of unpredictable schedule. You don't know when your days are going to end. But yeah, some people are there for 4 hours, others are there for 8. Yeah, everyone's different for sure. But, and then you'll go home, you'll have a transportation plan that does not include you driving. And then the next day or a week later or sort of whatever you schedule with your facilitator, you'll have an integration session where you'll talk about everything that came up and process all the things, the feelings, the experience, and talk about sort of ways to maybe make changes to your daily life. And that's sort of like the 3-part system.
Would you say that what you explained to me, that's just usual? That's what happens in all of these facilities? Or is that specific to you and to Chariot?
That's like generally the OHA model that most service centers follow. I mean, that's the 3-step sort of process is the prep, the session, and then the integration. And we also do have group sessions, which are another way to lower cost. So it's a group of people together journeying and fewer facilitators, which help bring down costs, which can be a very powerful experience. We try to encourage it, but people are leaning into the one-on-ones.
I could see why. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I can see why too.
Courtney, have you ever had a family do it? Because I'm just imagining an entire family. Has that ever happened?
We haven't had a whole family. We've had a number of couples. We've had a mother-daughter, a father-daughter, a sibling, but not the whole crew yet. But those are some of the best, most powerful days. It's cool.
I would imagine, especially for trying to repair relationships or whatever, this is an interesting option. You know what you should do is you should run family specials. Like kids get in free, kids eat for free.
That's a good idea.
Kids trip for free. Courtney.
Kids trip for free.
Kids trip for free.
I like it. That are 21 and older.
Oh, of course.
Yes, those kids.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here. And when we come back, Courtney is going to tell us some of the positive benefits that he's seen in patients after therapy.
Your brain needs support, and new Olibrain chews are a delightful way to take care of your cognitive health. Made with scientifically backed ingredients like Thai ginger, L-theanine, and caffeine, Brainy Chews support healthy brain function and help you find your focus, stay chill, or get energized. Be kind to your mind and get these nootropic chews at olly.com. That's OLLY.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
What kinds of results have you witnessed?
Yeah, I mean, seeing the impact is, kind of the best part of my job. It's so wonderful to be around so much healing that has happened at our center. We had a client who was featured in an NPR story a couple months ago. She's a domestic violence survivor experiencing PTSD, panic attacks, kind of tried everything, talk therapy, EMDR, meditation, and nothing had really, helped or worked. So she came to Chariot a couple months ago, and there's a quote at the end of the story that I think captures her experience very beautifully. It says, Sandra has gone to therapy, downloaded apps, repeated affirmations that she was safe and strong and loved. But she says it took psilocybin for her to actually feel that and believe it. We get notes the next day, a couple weeks, even a month down the road from clients who are talking about ways that they are embracing life in new ways that they once thought were unachievable. Whether it's getting out of bed in the morning, which can be really challenging for people, a newfound interest in all sorts of aspects of life. I mean, folks are living lives, thriving in ways that before they had been really stuck.
Right. When I hear about these success stories, I always wonder, what was it? What was it about taking mushrooms in this guided way that helped rather than, sitting through years of therapy, which I know also helps, some people. What's your theory?
I mean, I think about it a lot. The community, talk about it a lot. I mean, probably a neuroscientist could explain what they think happens in the brain in a way that I can't articulate or feel comfortable because I just don't know that that's even true. I think there's some sort of rewiring. I feel like it allows for new neural connections that happen. It kind of clears the junk out. There's a physiological component, but I think it really just sort of allows oneself to do and believe the things that they know deep down, but aren't able to actually believe. I don't know if that makes sense. It's hard to explain. I don't want to hypothesize, or I don't know exactly why. I'll just be honest. I mean, but it works. And it works for me. It is not going to work for everybody. There are folks who come in and for many reasons, maybe it's not the experience that they had hoped for. But that's the exception, not the rule. I mean, the overwhelming majority of people are having very positive experiences.
Yeah. So let's talk about these sessions, because an individual session is anywhere from like $600 to a few $1,000s. And right now, no health insurance is covering it. So it must have been kind of a bummer for those who went in. They were just like, aw. But why is it so expensive? Because I'm pretty sure I could buy shrooms for like less than $20.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, so it's not the mushrooms that make it expensive. Those are the cheapest part of the whole equation or cost. It's a couple of things that make it so expensive. It's a lot of hours, first off. So you're working with a facilitator for 20 plus hours. So that's a lot of hours working with one individual. You also have the service center, which is the physical location that you have to do the journey at, which is the center that we run. Everybody in this new industry has very high licensing fees. All of the security, all of the rule following, all make this a very expensive process. There's not a lot of folks with that sort of disposable income, and I get that. And we're not trying to make it expensive, and we're trying to find ways to make it more affordable.
What is the industry doing to address the inaccessibility? Because at a certain point, you're just like, well, who are the people who can afford this?
Yeah. So I can speak to kind of how we work at Chariot, which is on a sliding scale for everybody. So we try to find out sort of what a client's budget is, whether it's $0 or a few $1,000s, and work with that number. Most sessions are not at the full price. Most are at significantly less than sort of the upper end of what we would charge somebody that can't afford it. And so the folks that can pay for a couple $1,000s help us see more clients who have, less means and are, less disposable money. This is one solution right now that we're implementing. We do a number of no cost sessions every month for folks.
Oh, really? That's so cool.
Yeah. And I mean, without any sort of insurance to support us or any subsidization anywhere, this is just a very expensive thing right now.
Well, what do you think the future of mushroom therapy is going to look like? Like, do you think health insurance is ever going to cover it?
I hope so. I think there'll probably be some progressive companies that maybe add it to their benefits as a sort of add-on supplementary benefit for their employees. That will likely happen first. I don't know if that's at a state level, or Oregon healthcare could potentially add it on as a part of care that they're able to offer. But with the federal healthcare operators, it's challenging because it's still a controlled substance.
Yeah, so that would have to change in order, I think, because it would be so tricky for health insurances to be like, okay, only in Oregon,
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But as more and more states come on board with similar models, I think it won't be long before it's a very normal part of healthcare in this country and around the world.
Well, Courtney, last question. I know you're a very rare born and raised Portlander. I feel like it's harder and harder to find a born and raised Portlander nowadays. I don't know if Julia, our producer, prepped you or told you about this, but we here at the show are trying to make 503 Day a reality, which started off as, of course, a joke to us. But now it's very real. This is a very real holiday that we're hoping happens, which is on May 3rd, 503. We think that Portland should celebrate itself. And so we're now asking all of our guests when they come on, like, what are you going to do on this very real holiday, 503 Day?
Yes, I love it. I think Mr. Wheeler should absolutely write an official proclamation. I mean, honestly, this past year feels like every day has been sort of a 503 Day. Being able to do what I do, to be able to do the work that we are doing at Chariot as the first in the country and on the forefront of something, truly transformational. I'm humbled to be a part of it. And yes, it feels very, very 503 Day-esque. Also, if I wasn't doing this, May 3rd is the day after my birthday. I'd probably be up around the Japanese garden area, maybe foraging for some natural growing psilocybin mushrooms that tend to pop up in late spring. So,
Courtney, I'm reading through all that you're laying down. You don't have to say it. What Courtney says you should do on 503 day is get really high on mushrooms. That's what I heard. Is that what you just said? That's what Courtney said. That's what happened. Well, okay. Wait. Well, thank you for your contribution to 503 day, which is, I like this idea of going to try to find psilocybin around the Japanese garden. Not in the Japanese garden. Do not desecrate the Japanese garden.
Just in the areas around it. Yeah.
Around the Japanese garden. Mm-hmm. That would be awesome. That's a really good idea. So that would be your 503 tradition.
Yeah.
Like, go look for magic mushrooms.
Absolutely.
And now for some events coming up this weekend. The Lads 500 is happening this Saturday starting at 10 a.m. If you don't know what that is, it's a free one-day bicycle-themed public picnic and non-competitive bicycle relay where teams complete 500 laps around Lads Circle. It's a lot of fun and silly costumes are encouraged. Sports-wise, the Blazers are playing this Friday at 7 p.m. You can find tickets for as low as $15 in the nosebleeds. The Timbers are also playing this Saturday at 1:30 p.m. And our junior ice hockey team, the Portland Winterhawks, made it to the WHL playoffs and are playing both Friday and Saturday at the Veterans Coliseum. Also this Saturday from 4 to 8 p.m., the White Owl Social Club is having a sip and shop pop-up market for vintage, flowers, and crafts. There will also be a resident tattoo artist and, of course, a DJ. It actually looks like fun. For even more local events and news, sign up for our daily newsletter, Hey Portland. We'll throw all links in the show notes. Well, that's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you at Slim's.